Welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the actual cost of saying yes all the time to people and how you can reclaim your time and your energy without any sort of guilt that might be associated with that. Now, if you're constantly finding yourself saying yes to everyone else, but silently like you're sacrificing your own well-being, then this video is going to be for you. And let me set the stage by asking just a couple of questions. Have you ever maybe laid your head down to pillow at the end of the night, end of the day, you're getting ready to go to sleep, and you're just completely wiped out. You're completely burned out from all the work you've done, but somehow you still feel like you're behind, like you didn't actually make progress, like you've been going nonstop all day, helping everyone else solve their problems, saying yes, holding it all together, but your own needs, your own goals, like they got pushed to the bottom of the list again, right? Have you ever felt that? If that hits a little too close to home, then you are not alone. Whether you are a parent, trying to hold down the family, an entrepreneur who is spinning a million plates all at once to keep the business going, or the employee who's grinding the long hours to prove themselves. It's easy to fall into this loop where your time, your energy, your money are constantly being spent, but not necessarily on what actually matters to you. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and author of this book. It's called The GIVER Method. It's an Amazon bestseller, tons of 5-star reviews. I'll put a link down in the description where you can go get access to it, or you can go to Amazon.com and check out The GIVER Method. Check it out, get access to it. Honestly, it's the best $10 you could invest in yourself if you want to go and do that before the prices go up here soon. But definitely, everything we're going to talk about today is grounded in principles from this book. And there's a lot of great things that you can take from it. Living a more fulfilled life, discovering your gifts and superpowers, all sorts of things like that. Now, what I want to tell you is that, I've been where you're at as well. I totally feel it. I totally get you. Fully every which way that was a part of me. I was trying to be the go-to for everyone, whether it was my kids, my team, my friends, but behind the scenes, I was running on fumes in every which way possible. And I remember the exact moment where I get all snapped into focus. I realized I didn't have to do it all. I could actually ask for help. I could set boundaries. And when I did, it started to change everything. I got support I didn't even know was available to me, and my life became more manageable, more than, actually started to feel aligned again. And yeah, there are times where I still fall back into it, where I struggle with, I do like to make people happy, and I like to say yes, and I, sometimes struggle to ask for help. That's just part of being a giver. It's in us. But once I started doing it, it helped me feel more aligned, more fulfilled, and have more energy at the end of every single day. So in this video, I want you to walk away with these kind of principles and strategies that can, they change the game for me, and they can do the same for you. Now, these aren't any sort of fluffy woo-woo ideas of any kind. These are real practical tools that you can use even when you're jam-packed schedule, tools that can help you to stop that slow drip of burnout, that start taking back your time little bit by little bit, your energy, your money, so you can use them where they matter most to you. Now, if that's something you're ready for, then keep watching. Go ahead, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell for notifications. We drop new videos all week long, and I don't want you to miss out on any of the content we have about rediscovering gifts and superpowers, stepping into your real strengths, and building the kind of impact that only you can make. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the places on social under The GIVER Method, or at thegivermethod.com for some free resources or other ways that we can help you. Now, let's dive into this. Let's get rolling with the first one without any more delay. So the first thing is this idea of doing an awareness audit of where is everything going. There's this idea, one of the things I was taught years ago that I've taken to heart is this idea there are 3 currencies in life. And so this is called the currency awareness audit, or 3 currency reality check for yourself. Because honestly, most of us are flying through life on autopilot. And we say yes to every ask. We burn energy on stuff that leaves us feeling drained. We spend money without even really thinking of if it's helping or hurting our bigger goals. And before we know it, your time, your energy, your money are all spoken for, and not by the things that actually matter to you. And that's why, I want to talk to you about this real life gut check. What's that reality check you can do as it pertains to your time, energy, and money? Now, this isn't about guilt. It's about finally getting honest with yourself and saying to you, I've got value. I value my family. I value my health or my sanity. But when I really look at my calendar or my bank statement or how I feel at the end of the day, does that actually line up with what I value? Now, here's what this looks like. In practice, what you do to really start to take context is, for the next few days, track where your time, energy, and money are going. You don't need to any sort of fancy spreadsheet or anything. Just maybe use a notes app or a piece of paper or something that you can just log things down and log the, your time by the hour. For energy, just try simple, pluses and minuses, after a task. Did it fill you up or did it wear you out? And then you can skim your bank account and ask yourself, like, where does my spending align with where I say I have, like, what I value? And then as you do that, you start to look at where the time and that energy and the money is going. Like, once you do that, you're going to start seeing patterns that are really loud and clear. Maybe it's hours lost doing things that you could delegate. Maybe it's energy drained by people who are constantly taking from you and never giving back. Or maybe it's money towards stress-fueled convenience instead of, intentional choices that actually serve you over time. Now, here's where the real sort of game changer starts to play in. Like, look for the smart exchanges, places where spending one currency gives you a boost in another, like, paying for meal delivery so that you can reclaim that time and energy with your kids. Some people don't want to do that. Some people do. It can work out great. Or carving out time to move your body so that energy stays up all day. These sort of swaps aren't luxury. They're just smart listening. They're smart living. This sort of a step matters because you can't fix what you don't see. You can't protect your time or your energy or money until you actually know where it's been leaking out, and then reassessing where you want that stuff to be. It isn't about overhauling your life overnight. It's about just starting to get some clarity, and clarity alone can push you through starting this sort of a process and really reclaiming this stuff back for yourself. Now, as we move into the second principle strategy, I call it, like, there's this boundary system, boundary blueprint that you would start to install. So you want to build, like, it's a game plan. What's my boundary game plan before I burn out? And that's the key part, like, before I burn out. Most people don't think about boundaries until something completely blows up. The missed deadline, the blow up with a client, a yes you regret the second it, leaves your mouth. But here's the truth. Boundaries aren't just like rigid walls to keep people out. Like, they are how we protect what matters most to us, how we protect our time and our energy and our money, so we don't end up drained, resentful, or running on complete empty. And that sort of a shift when you stop seeing a boundary in that sort of way. After you've been pushed too far, you start you start building them before you need them. You start putting them in place because it has such a drastic impact on you. So you want to have this, like, what's your boundary game plan? If you're a parent who is constantly on call, entrepreneur juggling too many roles, the employee whose to-do list grows by the hour, then you need this more than you think. And there are three types of boundaries to think about, okay? So there's going to be internal boundaries, external boundaries, and environmental, okay? Internal ones are about you, like your self-talk, your focus, like what you say yes and no to. Externally, it's like, how do I, there are the people that I want to give access to my time and money and my energy. Like, are they depleting me? Are they draining me? And of course, the environmental one, that's like the space, the digital, physical, where does it support or sabotage your day? And so start by asking yourself, like, what are your non-negotiables for each of these things? For time, what blocks absolutely have to be protected? For your energy, like, what kind of interactions leave you filled up with energy or drained? And then for money, like, what habits keep pulling you off track from financial goals? Write them down. And the goal here isn't like being rigid, it's providing clarity. And then as you get practical, you could draft a simple boundary statement. Something like, I wrote out a little kind of sample, like, I will or won't, blank, to protect my blank. Like, I won't answer my emails after 7 p.m. to protect my time with my kids. Or I will request a deposit before starting the new project to protect financial peace of mind. Like, this isn't about, like, it's about protecting what you value most, not just your calendar. And then, sometimes you prepare scripts, for the moments that catch you off guard. Someone asks you for that favor that's going to stretch you thin, Hey, I'd love to help. I'm maxed out right now, committed to stay focused on these things. The client that wants extra work outside the scope of what you do, like, hey, it's not included in our agreement, but I'd be happy to, price that separately so that we, could determine what that is. Like, these aren't cold in any way. They're just being respectful of the boundaries that you have at heart. It matters because, like, when you make boundary calls in the moment, when you're tired, you're emotional, like, you're caught off guard, like, you default to these old patterns of people-pleasing, overcommitting, avoidance. But when you already have a structure built, this blueprint, like, you now have a plan to follow. Boundaries don't shrink your life, they just shape it. They give you the space to be more present and creative within your own life. Now, that's going to take us to our third principle strategy, and it's this idea of permission and having a protocol around it. Like, give yourself the green light. Like, let's talk about something that doesn't really get named enough. Most people don't struggle with boundaries because they don't know how to set them. They struggle because deep down, they're still waiting for someone to tell them it's okay to do it in the first place. And if that's you, whether you're stretched thin parent, the entrepreneur trying to be everything to everyone, or someone who's clocking the long hours and just feel like they're, gosh, I'm pulling my weight, and I'm trying to get along. Like, you're not alone in any way. We've been taught that, like, putting ourselves last is like the noble way of doing things. Like, and saying no is selfish. Rest is a reward that you're going to earn when everything else is met and done. Like, and be honest, like that condition, like, it runs deep inside of us. Now, where everything starts to shift for you is you don't need anybody's permission to protect your time, your energy, or finances. Like, you get to decide what you need. You get to prioritize yourself without any sort of an apology. This isn't about being selfish in any way. It's just sustainable. So what's that permission protocol for yourself? Because you're not, you're what you're doing here is giving yourself that, once again, the green light that your needs matter. That's really what it comes down to. Like, they matter now, not later, not when it's convenient. They matter right now. And so put it into practice. So start by writing, like, what's that simple statement of, like, and it may feel weird to write this out, but I'm telling you, writing things out has so much value in how your brain processes that data. So write out, like, I give myself permission to protect my time, my energy, my finances, in the service of life, and actually live the life that I want to live. Sign it, date it, put it somewhere where you're going to see it so you can remind it. It's like your, like, symbolic way, to know what it is that you're dedicating yourself towards. But for many of us, the one line that can be, totally different in ways of showing up is how we then say, like, these are the things I'm going to value. These are the things I'm going to put into place, because that's what is driving me forward. It's what lights me up and gets me motivated. And then take notice of where maybe you withhold permission from yourself. Like, where do you feel guilty when you consider saying no? Or where do you keep overextending even though it's costing you way more because of what you're giving? Like, it could be different for everyone. Maybe for you, it's taking a weekend away from the kids to recharge, or maybe you're turning down a client because you're trying to build yourself back up. Like, simply, I'm closing my laptop at whatever time, at 5:30, even when no one else is. Like, these are the moments where your, like, new permission statement need to speak louder than any sort of a guilt for doing that. It helps to create these permission anchors, these physical reminders that you may need that bring back, that empowered mindset. Maybe it's a phrase on the lock phone screen, like, hey, my needs matter too, or maybe it's a bracelet, maybe it's a sticky note, a daily alarm, whatever it is. Like, just something that I'm choosing rest. I'm choosing to spend time with my kids. I'm choosing to whatever. Like, this is my choice that I'm doing, and I'm excited about it. I'm not going to let people steamroll me based off of that. Now, if you want to take it deeper, close your eyes. You can do some visualization. What it would feel like to be, fully, if you fully believed you, like, and that you had the right to protect these sort of resources. Like, would your shoulders relax if you did that? Would your voice change? Would you show up differently in the next conversation or meeting? Like, just these quick check-ins, they build muscle memory. Like, hey, I've got boundaries for a reason, and I'm working to create this world that I want. If you skip this step, if you don't give yourself permission first, then every boundary you try to set is always going to feel a little shaky. Like, maybe you're faking confidence, that you don't actually feel. But once they give yourself that internal green light, you flip that on. Like, you stop asking if it's okay to protect your peace. Like, then you just start doing it. And it's amazing how once that progress starts, it just steamrolls and gets going faster and faster. Now it takes us into the fourth one. So we're halfway there. Feel free at any time to leave a comment drop a comment if any of these that stand out to you, anything that jumps out to you. You're like, yeah, I love that. Or, man, it really hits home. I need to focus more on that sort of a thing. So whether it's one of the ones we've already done or one of the next three that we're going to be doing. So the fourth one, this value alignment, and it's creating this filter. So say yes to what actually matters. So, like, the boundaries sometimes are good for saying no, but, like, how do we say yes to what matters? Like, most of us are out here saying, like, yes to stuff that we don't even care about. Not because we want to, but because it feels easier than sorting through the guilt or the pressure or the fear that we've been talking about, or letting someone down, or above all, like, that yes pile grows really fast, doesn't it? Like, and so does the exhaustion that comes along with it. And that's why this thing is kind of important. It's about building, like, what's the decision-making filter that you could just turn on that keeps your time, your energy, your money flowing towards what actually matters to you, not what's loudest, not what's the most urgent, and definitely not what's tied to some old version of you who said yes to everything out of a habit or obligation. So say yes to what matters filter. Like, think of it that way. It's not, doesn't have to be anything fancy, but it is truly going to be something that's life-changing. Instead of, reacting to whatever pops up in your inbox, your calendar, your family group chat, like, you pause and ask yourself, like, is this aligned with where I'm at right now? Is this aligned with the season I'm in, and the values that I want to be living by right now, the things that matter the most to me, And so you just get honest with yourself, like, okay, well, number one, what are my current values? Not the ones that sound good on paper, but like the ones that actually matter and make me feel grounded. And if you need, like, ChatGPT, Claude, all sorts of AI tools can help you determine what those values are if you need help with that. Maybe it's being present with your kids. Maybe it's growing the business that excites you. Maybe it's reclaiming your health or keeping financial, like your financial status steady, right? Pick 3 to 5 things. That's it. Not 10, not everything in the world, just like what matters to you the most right now. And know that those things that matter to you the most, those priorities, they can change, and that's totally okay. And then what you want to do, take it that little bit step further. You define what each of those values looks like in real life. Family time doesn't mean a lot. It's really vague. It has not a lot of intention behind it. So, it might mean like, hey, I'm not working during dinner, or I'm taking one unplugged weekend, or, if it was your health, it might be like I'm doing 30-minute walks or pushing for a full-blown workout schedule. Like, probably not the second, like, full-blown workout schedule, because you may have tried that before. It doesn't stick. So, like, let's figure out what's going to be the most aligned and not just crazy, aspirational, sort of a thing. I've always had the theory that, at a certain point in the day, I need to stop doing anything work-related. Otherwise, like, I know I'm going to probably dream about work. And so, like, I have a cutoff point where it's like, nope, I'm done. I got to close computers, walk away. And what's great is that gives me a chance to be available with my family. I like waking up really early, which means that I leave the office to the office really early, and then I go home really early. So I walk in when my boys are getting home from school. I get the whole afternoon and evening with them. But, like, that's because those are the things that I value the most in the world. Those are lining up with what I care about, that family time, being there for my boys, being there for my wife, things like that. Once you know what your values are, once you dial those in, now you can create the filter. Like, it's super simple. Anytime a request or opportunity comes your way, just ask, like, well, does it support one of my values? Does it use one of my natural gifts or superpowers in ways that matter? Or does it, does the return justify the time or energy and money that it's going to cost me? And if it checks boxes, like, great, say yes with confidence. Like, if not, well, gosh, there's a really powerful way, you want to start using this, like, hey, not right now. Like, I've got a not right now list. And this is, for all the good ideas. Sometimes we call it a dream catcher. I'm going to put it in my file box for later, my mental file box. Like, hey, good ideas, these are kind people. These are decent opportunities. They're just not a fit for where I am right now. So you're not saying no forever. You're just saying, hey, I'm creating space, like, to say, yeah, you know what? I'm creating space for that, but yeah, I don't need to look at it right now. And that's going to create so much more power for you in your decision making and being able to move forward through actually achieving these things that you're trying to create value for. Now, this is especially useful if you are, like, I don't know, parent in the thick of it, and you feel like you should be chasing your career growth too, or you're that entrepreneur tempted to add 5 new offers. You're still trying to get one off the ground, or you're the employee who asks to lead every team task, and you're just because, like, you're good at it and you're trying to get out there. Like, I've been all of these things, so here's this filter. It's, like, going to be so important for you. Without it, you will absolutely spend your life reacting instead of directing, which reaction is not intentional. Directing is intentional. These currencies of time, energy, money, they're going to leak out in 1,000 different directions, and none of them are going to lead you to where you actually want to go. So it helps you avoid burnout. You're going to gain more clarity. You're going to be able to make decisions faster and protect your ability to show up fully to the people who matter most to you. And so that takes us to number 5, which is this boundary communication and reinforcement. So, like, how do we actually talk about it? How do we say it, stick to it? Like, what's that boundary system we have? We're not, short on intentions in any way. We've all got those, like, quiet, like, never again moments where we tell ourselves, like, we're going to stop checking our emails after dinner, or we're going to stop saying yes to every request, or we're going to stop letting people treat our time like it's a clearance sale. But if you don't know how to say it out loud and then stick to it, like when that pressure hits, you're not going to last. That's where this sort of idea comes in. So like there's this like say it and stick to it, because it's exactly what helps you like do these things. It's not just about setting the boundary in your head. It's about communicating them clearly and keeping them strong when, real life pushes back on it. Because the truth is, like, boundaries, they aren't spoken out loud or reinforced over time. Like, they're going to fade. They're going to fade really, really fast. So, how do you make these boundaries actually work? Like, what you want to do is you got to learn to talk and communicate. Most people struggle here because they either stay too vague, like, I need the space, or they apologize for the boundary like it's some kind of a burden. But when you're protecting your time, your energy, your finances, like it shouldn't be difficult in any way. You're just being really clear, and clarity is kind. So simple framework is like, think about it this way when you're expressing boundaries, like, what's the actual limit? Like, I don't take work calls after 7 p.m. Why? Because I value, or need, like what value or need do you need to protect that? Like, well, that time is dedicated to my family and I want to show, present and rested and available to them. And then you think about how, like, what are alternatives, or a path forward? Like, well, I'll check my messages first thing in the morning. You can text me if it's urgent. Like, that's it. There's a boundary that feels human, it feels firm, and it invites, respect instead of resistance in any sort of a way. And once you've said it, the next part is to like make the next principle part of the principle stick. Like, stick it. You have to stick with it. Boundaries naturally wear down over time, especially when you're tired or overwhelmed, or you're trying to keep the peace. And that's why you want to identify, like, well, what are the slippery spots that could come in? Like those boundaries where, you're most likely to let them slide a little bit. Maybe it's work bleeding into the weekends. Maybe it's volunteering for every school event. Maybe it's, bending your rates, or giving discounts over guilt. Like, name what they are. And those are the ones that you need to keep the closest eye on. And then what's your reinforcement tool behind that? Like, for example, if you feel tension in your chest, when you're about to say yes to something that you don't want to do, like, that's usually the signal. Like, what's the thing? Like, oh my gosh, I've got something coming. I've got this guilt. I'm feeling this guilt or anxiety creeping in. That moment that is when you need to remember why the boundary matters. So always have a response ready when someone challenges those limits. Like, it's not a script or robotic, but, a few go-to lines that keep you grounded. Like, hey, I get that's totally important to you. Here's what I can offer you, or, hey, that's not something I can take on right now, but I appreciate you thinking of me. Here's the thing, like, this next part can be really key to a lot of this. Like, and don't do it alone. Set up boundary accountability. Like, maybe it's your partner who reminds you, like, hey, you shouldn't be working late every single night. Maybe it's a boundary buddy who calls you when, you're taking clients who doesn't fit your goals. Maybe it's a friend who just sends you that, like, hey, you still holding strong text message every so often. And the last piece is, like, schedule check-ins with yourself, like regular check-ins. Maybe it's once a month, asking yourself, like, well, what boundaries are working? Which ones are falling apart? Which ones need some adjusting? Like, this keeps the system flexible and alive and not completely rigid. When your boundary isn't just a statement, it is truly a practice. And if you're only, like, strong in the moment you set it, then when those days come, you're going to fall apart. You're going to slip back into these old habits. So say it and stick to it and stop. That way you can stop managing chaos and you can start leading through life again. And of course, our sixth one is like this idea of abundance through boundaries, this boundary mindset. How do you create that? Like, more by saying less, something that changed my life, and I've seen it change the lives of many people that I've worked with, is that boundaries aren't, what are keeping you out. Like, they're actually what you are making room for. Like, I'm trying to make room for all these new things by creating the boundaries. And that's sort of a shift. It's like kind of the heartbeat of this idea of, like, this boundary, abundance boundary mindset. Most people approach boundaries like they're some sort of necessary evil. Like, I have to put boundaries. I can't let people, it's like, well, I should say no more often, right? I have to protect this. Like, yeah, that's what it's about. But if you zoom out, boundaries aren't just restrictions, they're invitations, because they're creating space for what actually matters to you. If you break it down, like, when you guard your time with purpose, you show up more present with your kids or your team. Like, Like when you protect your energy, you're more creative. Doesn't just like creativity doesn't just survive, it can shine. When you're intentional about your money, like you stop patching holes and you start making real investments in your future. Like it's not fluffy self-care sort of ideas in any sort of way. It's about, a shift in how you operate. For busy parents, it's realizing that, hey, by saying no to get another school obligation might actually be the reason I have energy at bedtime, to do bedtime stories with my kids. Like for the entrepreneur, if, you see that sticking to your ideal client criteria means less stress and better work. Like for an employee, it might be recognizing that, taking your PTO isn't slacking. It's actually a strategy for long-term impact and sustainability in the value you're trying to create for people. And so, you can put this mindset into play. First start by, changing how we talk about the boundaries, even to yourself. Instead of like, I can't do that, it's, hey, well, I'm trying to protect my priorities. I'm trying to create space for these sort of things. Instead of saying like, I feel bad for saying no, it's like, I'm choosing with what aligns with what I'm looking for, like where I'm going. The language shift matters more than you think, and it turns, if you've ever had that guilt around these type of decisions, it turns it more into that intention. And then start noticing like the wins. Keep a little note on your phone or a journal where you track like the good that comes from honoring those boundaries. Did I say no to that extra, I said no to this thing, and it like actually I was able to go and crush that project that I was working on. Like I was able to be, dive into more of a something I'm passionate about. Like, did you finally have the time to have peaceful dinner with your family? Like whatever it is, like confirmations that build the belief that boundaries are working for you. And then like, think about it like, well, what's the impact of each of the currencies? Like simple visual that you could create for yourself, how guarding your time and your energy, your finances directly leads to the kind of impact you're trying to make. Now, here's where surprising little trick like that you can try then this boundary gratitude and like that, like thank yourself for the follow through. Like, hey, I'm proud I said no to that thing and I made space for this today. I'm grateful that I honored my schedule. Like the choice gave me the space to show up better tonight. Like whatever it is, thank yourself, thank those around you. Like it might feel cheesy at first, but over time it rewires that sort of a guilt, or negative mindset to it. And you start to train it around like, well, gosh, I've got these protected needs. I'm excited about what that creates for me. And then, share this shift, like not as a lecture, but as a lived example. Like when you turn something down, you don't have to apologize. Like, hey, I'm prioritizing time for my family. Thanks for understanding. And then just go forward with that. That one line doesn't just reinforce your growth. It might give someone else the courage to do the same in their own life. The way you show up has an impact. That's that idea of a ripple effect that happens. Now, this is really important because like this mindset shift, boundaries will always feel like a chore unless you shift. Something that you should do, but never fully believe in. But when you flip the script and you start to see these things as like, well, I'm going to use this to multiply the good in my life, everything starts to click. You start to build more energy every single time one of these boundaries happens and you're creating that space for the things that actually matter to you. You start realizing that you're not, it's not about doing less, it's about doing more of the right things with the right people for the right reasons. Like, and that's not just freedom, that's where abundance comes in. Now, as we like bring this all together, like, the way you manage your time, your energy, your finances, like they're not just logistics, like that's your life. It's how your impact gets built. It's how your relationships stay real, and it's how your sanity stays intact. When you start seeing and setting boundaries like around those sort of ideas of your time and your energy and such, like you're not pushing people away, you're protecting what makes you capable of showing up in the first place. This isn't about being rigid or building any sort of walls. It's about just intention. It's about being the best version of yourself, not the leftovers. Saying no to what drains, saying no to what drains you isn't selfish in any way. It's how you start saying a much louder, powerful, like yes to the things that light you up. I mean, look, I've been there, like in that place that feels like you're trying to fix it all, carry it all, and trying to do it all. But I've seen how these sort of small shifts, when they happen, you stop running yourself to the ground and you start treating these currencies, this time, energy, and money, like they actually matter, because they do. Now, here's your next move. Like, you need to pick one of the things we talked about today and try to implement it. Just one. Don't try to do everything. What's the one thing that hit home to you? And start there. Whatever it is, just start there. It's one small shift and start building some real traction from there. Give yourself grace, because it's not about being perfect. Like, it's a practice. And there's going to be awkward moments. There's going to be some setbacks. Like, there's going to be some, oops, I did it again. Like, and that's okay. What matters is that you don't keep coming back. Like, is that you do come back to what matters most. You get back to your alignment, your capacity, you find your peace. Now, if this is something we talked about today, like stirred any part of anything in you, maybe a bit of conviction, maybe there's maybe some breath of relief that could be there, then like, once again, everything we talked about is grounded here inside of the book, The Giver Method. Go get yourself a copy. I'll put a link in the description, as well as all the other resources that we can get access to. Like, it's going to dive deeper in how you uncover these gifts, realign your life, and create the impact that fuels you instead of leaves you feeling fried. You can find it on Amazon. Like I said, I'll put the link down there. You can go to thegivermethod.com and check out all the other resources that we have. If this video brought any sort of value to you, give it a thumbs up. Once again, hit subscribe if you have not already, and let's keep that momentum building together. Maybe you need to share it with someone else who needs to hear this sort of an idea of setting boundaries. And then, of course, feel free to drop a comment below. Like, tell me which of these things landed the most for you. I would love to hear how this stuff is landing out there in the world. And with that, I'll just say, until next time, remember your time, your energy, your finances, everything around that. Like, these are not just currencies. They're vehicles for your calling of who it is that you're meant to be. And when you protect them, you don't shrink your life. You expand your ability to live fully and be more present to those that matter. So like, we're just getting started with this. Let's just do that, because when you start to do that, the universe will pay you back. I promise you that. And so with that, we'll catch you on our next video. Have a great rest of your day.